This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. A quiet Winnipeg neighbourhood, best known for its wholesome Christmas cheer, is now the scene of a drug bust, one where police found the body of a man. The CBC's Stephanie Cram joins us now live from Fox Meadow Drive. Stephanie?
Hi, Janet. Yes, normally this street over the Christmas holidays is bustling with families. When it turns into Candy Cane Lane, remnants of the elaborate Christmas decorations can still be seen along the street even today. Yesterday, the street was busy with Winnipeg police and Winnipeg fire paramedic services after the discovery of a deceased 39-year-old man and an inoperative meth lab. Beyond the candy cane displays, Winnipeg firefighters could be seen getting into hazmat suits to safely remove lab equipment and hazardous materials from the home. Police say a 70-year-old woman and a 37-year-old man were evacuated from the home as they safely dismantled the meth lab. Today I spoke with neighbors in the area. They say that police gave them no information about what was happening, only to say that they were removing hazardous materials from the home. Police say no injuries were reported amongst the people who live in the home. The cause of death of the man is not yet known, but they are waiting for an autopsy. Janet?
Thank you so much. That's CBC's Stephanie Cram reporting live tonight. A long-promised sobering facility in Thompson will soon be run by an Indigenous nonprofit after internal disagreements within several organizations delayed the project. The sobering center was announced for the city in 2020, but it's still not a reality. The I-Team's Caroline Bargout traveled to Thompson this past winter and brings us the updated story.
There's that free breakfast there.
For Sam Prince, this is home. Originally from South Indian Lake, he's been homeless for about a year after his wife left him. He's traveled from Churchill to British Columbia. Before he found this healing center, he'd be out looking for a place to sleep in the winter.
Well, somewhere warm, McDonald's, Walmart.
Warren Strahl was living at the Thompson Inn before getting a room here.
Bedbugs moved in, and they booted me out. No place else to go.
You're doing okay, though? Yeah, that's good.
The 45-bed healing center opened in Thompson last October, replacing the old homeless shelter, which only had enough room for 24 people.
I would say that there is definitely a need. Within 2 weeks of opening, we were at capacity.
The healing center has an overflow room that could fit an additional 25 beds, and 25 more people can sleep in the basement when the temperatures dip below -30. The original plan was for the facility to contain a sobering center, a place where RCMP can bring people they arrest under Manitoba's Intoxicated Persons Detention Act, or IPDA, which are essentially involuntary detentions. Each year, more than 1,000 people are detained in Thompson under IPDA. The province says the city opened the healing center earlier than planned so that beds would be available for people this winter. And while this is not yet a designated sobering center, RCMP can still drop off intoxicated people here, but they have to be able to walk in on their own and give their consent. In 2020, the province committed $2.8 million to the creation of the sobering center. Thompson's mayor says that money is still being held in trust until a concrete plan is in place.
It came down that everybody was waiting for the whole plan, and you could see that just wasn't going to work.
The Canadian Mental Health Association has been running the shelter but hasn't been able to move Phase 2 forward. There are 20 organizations involved and no consensus on what it should look like. Now that the Indigenous-led nonprofit Manitoba Kiwetinawi Okimakanak is taking it over, the hope is the project will move forward.
It's about safety, it's about providing dignity and care. That's what needs to be included with IPD. It's not just about throwing them in a cell until they sober up. It's about, providing, care.
1/3 of the people living in Thompson struggle with addictions. And while the community is doing its best, the demand outweighs the resources available.
If I can put through 262 people a year into the in-house program, and at the end of the year still have an 80 to 90 name wait list, and I add on the 1,950 to 2,000 people that are served in community-based every year, We're just touching the tip of the iceberg because there's so many people out there who have issues that aren't coming forward yet.
The hope is the Healing Centre will be able to provide transitional housing for people who come out of addictions treatment. As for the Sobering Centre, there is no firm date for when it will open, but MKO says, best case scenario, it'll be by the end of the year. Caroline Bargood, CBC News, Thompson.
A man is dead and another is in hospital after a double stabbing early yesterday morning. Police were called to the 100 block of Austin Street North in Point Douglas's neighborhood just after 1 a.m. 41-year-old Kevin James Westcoop died of his injuries. The other man, a 38-year-old, is in hospital in stable condition. Winnipeg police are asking anyone with information on what happened to contact investigators. The province is eager to have new community safety officers on the street. They say it'll free up the time of police officers. But one business owner reeling from repeated shoplifting attempts is not convinced this will work. The CBC's Ian Fraser reports now from Portage-La Prairie.
What's your feeling when you see that?
Anger. I feel angry because it's a $100 pant.
Every time a Jay Agrawal sees an empty hanger at his clothing store in Portage-La Prairie, he knows something's been stolen.
Come in a group and they collect everything like this and they go out openly that nothing is going to happen to them. That is dangerous.
Clothes are ripped off his hangers multiple times a month. He feels helpless.
We sell 10 t-shirts in a day, and if you count every day, 20 are missing.
Political leaders were in Portage today to push back against rural crime. It was a re-announcement that community safety officers will soon be an option for municipalities. They'll help enforce bylaws and handle mental health transfers. The mayor of Portage is interested. She hopes it will prevent crime from happening.
If we could have community safety officers going in and out of our businesses in our city, making our businesses feel more comfortable, knowing that people are seeing them in and out, maybe some of our shoplifting will be alleviated.
Agrawal doesn't see it helping. His issue is not with police.
Real problem is our judiciary system.
In January, 2 people marched into Agrawal's store and ran out with roughly $4,000 worth of clothes. He believes incidents like this are happening because offenders are getting out of jail too easily.
They know they are going to be released in half an hour or by next day, that's it. So there is no repercussion.
So he does what he can as a business owner. He's got security cameras, and on the windows, security bars inside and coverings outside of it. His daughter, the CEO of the family business, says the justice system needs to toughen up.
So when there's no consequences to your actions, people will only get more confident in doing the wrong thing. There needs to be a precedent set for these people.
The provincial law to bring community safety officers to all municipalities is expected to pass within the next month. Ian Fraser, CBC News, Portage-La Prairie, Manitoba.
A number of people in Transcona are upset tonight after what appears to be a spree of tire slashings. CBC News spoke with a number of people in the area who reported seeing at least 20 vehicles with slashed tires, including 8 at a 55-plus complex. Some households had more than one vehicle affected. People say this will be very costly to get fixed. MPI says it will generally provide coverage for tires when the damage is the result of a fire, theft, or vandalism. But people will likely need to pay their deductible, as well as depreciation costs for their worn tires. 5 people were taken to hospital in stable condition after a house fire in Transcona last night. The fire broke out just before 7 in the 300 block of Yale Avenue West. The flames spread also to a neighboring house. Officials say both homes sustained significant damage. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Across Canada, there is a shortage of affordable housing. Here in downtown Winnipeg, a social housing complex built only 13 years ago faces the wrecking ball. CBC's Bartley Kivas explains why.
This is Centre Village, 25 units of social housing on Balmoral Street. It opened in 2010. Now, nobody lives here. The province is looking for someone to redevelop the site, with a priority given to proposals to demolish this complex and start fresh with new social housing.
We could go bigger, which can only be done through demolition. As I understand it, the building condition is continuing to deteriorate, and so renovation or remodeling may not be an option.
In a request for development proposals open only to nonprofit organizations, Manitoba Housing says Centre Village's floor plan wasn't functional, the complex has blind spots that created security issues, and that entrances to upper units were designed in a way that made it all but impossible to move furniture in and out. Downtown development agency Centre Ventures started this project for newcomers. Manitoba Housing took it over, hoping to improve it.
We went into it with optimism when we purchased the property from Centre Venture. Our optimism was not well-founded.
5468796 Architecture, which designed Centre Village, won awards for the complex, but newcomers and other low-income tenants didn't like living here. A big complaint was safety. They wanted a fence around the site, but a 2019 report from Manitoba Housing found the design made a fence all but impossible. It said adding fencing to the site cannot be easily accomplished without significantly restricting the movement of residents and fire and police access. Manitoba Housing itemized the deficiencies at Centre Village, including heaving floors, sagging upper-story rooms, and corroded metal staircases. The total repair tab could be $1.8 million. That's more than the assessed value of the property. 5467896 Architecture declined to comment on the design problems with this complex. It intends to partner up with a nonprofit organization to try to redevelop Centre Village instead of seeing it demolished. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Most of the masking requirements remaining for healthcare facilities in Manitoba are set to be lifted next week. The change will apply to most visitors and patients who are going into acute and long-term care settings. Workers, visitors, and patients will still be required to wear masks in environments with vulnerable groups. Environmental activists are raising an alarm about the state of Duck Mountain Provincial Park. They've produced a report about what they describe as excessive logging in and around the Western Manitoba Park. These are images of clear cuts in what the locals call the ducks. The Wilderness Committee and other groups say it's time for Manitoba to hold off on logging in and around Duck Mountain. They say the province is not protecting biodiversity in what they describe as a remarkable place.
I was staring at this tree that's 15 feet taller than every other tree around it and saying this can't be a black spruce. As far as I can tell, this is the biggest black spruce we have recorded in the province, and it's in a logging area.
Now, CBC News asked for comment from Greg Nesbitt, Manitoba's Minister in charge of Natural Resources. We have not yet heard back. The grave of an unnamed First World War soldier in Belgium has been identified as holding a Winnipegger. Frederick Percy Bousfield died in a battle near the town of Ypres. Now, after years of work, his contribution to the war effort can finally be recognized. Our Matt Humphrey has more.
Corporal Bousfield, or Percy, served with the 79th Cameron Highlanders of Canada, headquartered in Winnipeg. Members of his battalion say he displayed great courage in the moments before his death. In 1916, his battalion was tasked with holding strategic ground around Mount Sorel, southeast of the Belgian town of Ypres. His friends sent letters back to his family saying he was killed by artillery while carrying wounded comrades out of battle. He was going back to grab another stretcher when he was hit. Captain Scott McDowell is his great-nephew.
I've gone to serve with Canadians of all types throughout, and it's just one of the most wonderful, meaningful experiences of my life. And that Percy would have, serving with his comrades, he would have been able to develop strong bonds, especially in combat, which I've never seen, but that he would have really, truly incredible.
In a strange twist of fate, McDowell works at the Directorate of History and Heritage, the same organization who identified an unmarked grave in Belgium as Percy's. Renee Davis is the historian who put the pieces together.
Like, Bousfield's family had all these letters from individuals who witnessed his death and wrote letters back to his family saying he was carrying in a stretcher, he got hit by a shell, like they had this extra detail. He was buried in a behind a cottage in the village kind of thing. These things add so much more to our ability to help identify.
They even have his sketches.
In this instance with Bousfield, there was just so much that pointed to it being him, and there was not that many other candidates that we had to exclude. So it was a really clear indication that it was him. Like, this is him for sure.
His family came to Canada shortly before the war. More than 100 years later, they took part in a ceremony commemorating his life.
One of the most beautiful moments during the dinner was an aunt of mine, just completely unprompted, stood up and said, "Can everyone in the room who's wearing a family heirloom please stand up?" And about 10 people stood up, and then they each took turns explaining the piece of jewelry or piece of whatever that they were wearing. And it was incredible. One was actually wearing the Percy's dog tag, the one that was on him.
1 century after being buried there, a renaming ceremony will happen near Ypres in September, and Percy's final resting place properly marked. Matt Humphrey, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Matt. Well, the weather is warming up. It's starting to feel like summer out there. So you know what happens in the summer? The city turns its attention to summer pests. The city of Winnipeg's bringing out the helicopters to battle mosquitoes. The city's annual larviciding program began today. Crews are out there treating more than 28,000 hectares of standing water that they find inside and outside the city of Winnipeg. The city says cooler temperatures, low wind, and little rainfall, that's just perfect. It means the crews can get out there and prevent larvae from becoming actual mosquitoes. Yes, John Sauder, it has been a long time since we talked about larviciding, and a long time since we've been sitting at or above 20 degrees.
A long time. This is actually the first time we've hit 20 degrees in 2023, and we're about a month and let's say 5 weeks late when you compare to average for this season. Here's a few more numbers for you. Yes, so the first 20 degree day of 2023, warmest day we've had in 210 days. So that date is back in October 11th, 2022 was the last time we were this warm. So hope you had a chance to get outside and enjoy it. We're still at 21. We did get to 22 earlier. North winds at 37 sustained. Earlier they were 30 gusting to 40. So going to stay a little bit strong as we head through the evening hours. Pressure's been steady all day, and that just tells me that high pressure is sitting right over top of us and really kind of slowly moving out to the east. And as it does, we'll start to develop either a south wind or an easterly wind in the coming days. But pretty sunny here. Still a mess down east. Lots of rain and cooler temperatures, just 3 degrees in Toronto and raining this afternoon. So nice to be here in Western Canada or the central part of Canada where skies will stay clear tonight. We're looking at sunshine to start our Thursday. Temperatures will climb quickly. We're staying above zero again tonight, of course. And then across through Thursday afternoon, we'll see a little bit more cloud, but notice that things are starting to drift in from the east. So high pressure is really to the north of us and low pressure as well down to the south. A couple of indications in the forecast model here of some showers. I really don't think that's in the cards. More of a sun cloud mix on Friday, and we should stay fairly sunny as we head into at least the early part of Saturday and then start to cloud over again on Saturday afternoon. And the rain on the weekend I have pushed back a little bit into Sunday and likely later on Sunday, as you'll see in a second here in the longer range forecast. So 4 degrees tonight, northwest winds at around 20, morning temperature 7, that would be at about 8 a.m. 9 o'clock, I think we'll be in the double digits at least, and north winds still at 20 kilometers per hour. Tomorrow, not as warm, but not as much wind, 20 to 25, and still mainly sunny with a high of 18 in the afternoon. Now, this is where I typically show you the next 3 days, but it's barbecuing weather. So here is your grilling forecast for the next few days. Friday, 16 degrees with a sun cloud mix, some afternoon cloud on Saturday, and then Sunday back to 18 degrees, but it will be cloudier on Sunday and some late day showers likely moving in. There is your grilling forecast. Janet, what time is dinner?
About 7:30, John.
I'll be there.
You're bringing it too.
Okay.
Dancers with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet are ready to take flight tonight. Wendy. Hang on. Performers and dancers are leaping through the air, actually flying high above the stage. Family favorite Peter Pan is playing at the Centennial Concert Hall. Associate Director Tara Birtwistle says the flying scenes required the dancers to do a lot of specialized rehearsal with flight experts from Las Vegas.
They had to learn how to balance in the harnesses. They had to learn how to flip. They had to learn how to fly upside down. So it's something very, very different for a dancer to do, but it's really magical. It's a family show that I think everyone needs to come see. It has beautiful things like flying, fairies, pirates, everything that includes in a joyful evening.
Well, it does look like fun. The RWB's Peter Pan runs tonight through Sunday at the Centennial Concert Hall. The bodies of 2 volunteer firefighters swept away by floodwaters in Quebec have been found. We'll have the latest on this story after the break. Authorities in Quebec have found the bodies of 2 volunteer firefighters swept away by floodwaters on Monday. Both men were trying to help people in the area that had been flood ravaged. It's a region of Charlevoix. Marie von Stackelberg has more.
For days, rescuers have combed this area northeast of Quebec City, searching for 2 part-time firefighters swept away by river currents. The pair were trying to help residents trapped by rising waters. The bodies of 55-year-old Régis Lavoie and 23-year-old Christopher Lavoie have now been found. The 2 firefighters were not related. The apparent drownings happened in the Charlevoix region, in the Bay St. Paul area, as water levels rose on the Rivière de Gouffre.
I think they were in really good faith, trying to help. They, of course, didn't think that it would go so fast.
Quebec's premier toured the devastation, where water also swept away vehicles, destroyed roads, and damaged houses.
They built those houses, they renovated those houses, and it's the asset of their life. And they see that right now, maybe they won't be able to come back, so it's terrible.
This week, more than 500 people here had to leave their homes. One resident says in some areas, the water rose more than 2 meters.
The neighbors here and myself are fairly numb to the circumstances now, just seeing what's going to be next and if the province will help homeowners and business owners with anything, because we're in a floodplain. And this only happens every 100 years, but I guess the 100 years was yesterday.
Opposition leaders in Quebec are calling on the Premier to do more to help residents better prepare for flooding like this.
In my part of the world, this is the 3rd flood in 7 years. People are growing tired and very tired of this. They want to see proper investments that are made, and I thought the Premier shut the door pretty quickly with regards to investments that needed to be made.
Those municipalities who deserve support in order to be ready for situations like those, because there are going to be many of those situations in the near future.
Likely to be top of mind as mayors from across Quebec are set to meet later this week. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Russia is accusing Ukraine of launching a drone attack on the Kremlin. It's being characterized as a failed attempt to assassinate Russian President Vladimir Putin. And Moscow says it reserves the right to retaliate. CBC's Briar Stewart reports.
In daylight, people can be seen on top of the dome of the Kremlin Senate. It's part of what's supposed to be a heavily secured fortress that Russia has accused Ukraine of trying to attack overnight. This video hasn't been verified, but the Kremlin claims its military and defense systems brought down 2 drones. Russian officials are calling it a terrorist attack, an attempt to kill President Vladimir Putin, whom they say was staying at a residence outside the city. Ukraine's president, who's in Helsinki, denied his country is involved.
We don't attack Putin or Moscow. We fight on our territory. We are defending our villages and cities.
U.S. officials say they haven't been able to verify Russia's claims, but have their doubts.
I would take anything coming out of the Kremlin with a very large shaker of salt.
Over the weekend, Russia blamed Ukraine for striking a fuel depot in Crimea. But if there was a foiled attack on the Kremlin, it's brought the war even closer to the capital. Moscow has promised retaliation. And the country's former president said there are no options left except to physically eliminate Zelensky and his clique.
What really became suspicious is, how come the air defense system didn't catch this object before?
This Russia expert says the fact that Moscow publicized this apparent strike when it has concealed other attacks suggests this is political.
I think what he needs is the domestic support, and this really would give him sort of the domestic agreement from the population to sort of hit harder. So yes, I think this could be a sort of there's an internal component to this.
Even as Ukraine is about to launch its counteroffensive, Russia insists that it's going ahead with its annual Victory Day military parade, but with tighter security. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
A mass shooting at a school in Serbia has left 8 students and a security guard dead. Several other people were seriously injured. A 13-year-old was arrested at the school. He was armed with his father's handgun. Police say he meticulously planned the attack, making drawings of the classrooms and preparing a list of victims. 6 students and a teacher were also injured. Police have arrested and charged a Toronto area man for allegedly sending sodium nitrite to people who used it to kill themselves. Authorities here in Canada launched an investigation after a British newspaper reported that Kenneth Law had sold the lethal drug to people in the UK and the United States. CBC's Thomas Daigle has more.
Gary Cooper's brother describes him as brilliant, loved, and missed since Gary took a toxic substance last year mailed from Canada to end his life.
He found this website, this forum, before he could get better, so he didn't get a chance to heal. He would still be here now.
Lee Cooper says he was surprised and relieved when he heard police near Toronto had arrested Kenneth Law, the Mississauga man accused of selling sodium nitrite online to people at risk of suicide. The 57-year-old made a brief court appearance by video link, speaking only to confirm his date of birth. Law faces 2 counts of counseling or aiding suicide as police look for more alleged victims.
We're aware that packages were shipped to over 40 countries.
Over the phone last week, Law denied all allegations.
I don't know what's the scope of what I can say, and I hope you can understand why. This has been a very distressing experience.
Families of sodium nitrite victims have been calling for a notorious suicide forum to be shut down. Anonymous users discuss methods of suicide and have posted about Law's companies. In recent days, users in several countries who said they'd ordered Law's products reported receiving police wellness checks out of the blue.
It's just a shame that things like this couldn't have happened sooner. A lot of lives could have been saved, but a lot more are still ready to be saved.
Sodium nitrite has legitimate uses in food preparation, but when ingested in pure form, it's known to turn red blood chocolate brown.
You can even have seizures and go into coma, and you can die because of this change in the hemoglobin.
Law remains in detention, still awaiting a bail hearing. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
Some Winnipeg food banks got a very welcome delivery today. We'll tell you about it after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Winnipeg Food Bank's got a big boost from Winnipeg's sick community. The Manitoba chapter of Khalsa Aid was busy today making deliveries across Winnipeg. Khalsa Aid is an international humanitarian organization based on Sikh principles. The group held a massive food drive last month during Sikh Heritage Month, and today crews brought loads of non-perishable goods to Main Street Project, Harvest Manitoba, and the Bear Clan Food Bank.
Our original goal was to fill one 5-ton truck, but we doubled that by the grace of God and by the grace of everyone involved. So we're very thankful for that. It's well received, right? It's good timing. It's very busy. We're serving between 600 and 700 people a day, Monday to Friday. So it's the numbers are going up.
The Bear Clan says the supplies will help feed people for the next couple of days. Khalsa Aid will make another big delivery tomorrow to Southeast Helping Hands in Steinbach. No date's been set yet, but Federal Emergency Preparedness Minister Bill Blair says he will be coming to Winnipeg to meet with families of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. They'll discuss how a red dress alert system might work. The call to create such a system was part of a motion passed unanimously by MPs yesterday. The motion also urged Ottawa to declare ongoing MMIWG 2S+ violence a national emergency. Renee Gamblin-Kasterkoff of the PAW, who's lost both her mother and her niece to homicide, traveled to Ottawa to support the motion and spoke with the CBC.
We're basically at ground zero in Manitoba, and it's happening on a regular basis. It's almost daily where somebody is missing. I have granddaughters, I have grandsons, I have everybody has grandchildren. Like, we don't want them to be facing this same type of risk, and they are, because they're Indigenous. To be born Indigenous and to walk the streets Indigenous, we're at risk simply because of that. Where I live, we have the highest child poverty rate in all of Canada. We have the highest Indigenous population in all of Canada, and that increases the risk even more so because there are fewer resources. We need resources. We need the ability to be able to support Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirited kin. We need the resources to be able to act on needs that are presented to us, and we need to be able to provide supports to families. We need to be able to provide protective factors to families for Indigenous people living in conditions of risk, and that's most of the Indigenous people in the northern population for sure, and many within the rest of the province. With the red dress alert, I would hope that there would be better understanding with the police. I would hope that it would change their approach when they're working with the Indigenous population, that they would respond in a manner where Indigenous people were looked at it like as people. There are some fine RCMP officers out there, don't get me wrong, but by and large, my experiences has been very negative, and many experiences of people that I know. I would hope that police would receive training about colonial history in this country, and how that has impacted Indigenous people in this country, particularly with residential schools as well. My mother was a residential school survivor, and I'm telling you that her kids felt all those intergenerational effects, and that's still going on right now. So with a red dress alert, I would see, training. I would see a trauma-informed approach. There'd be receiving training around that, how to support families, and then, of course, the actual implementation of the alert in terms of the procedures, whatever steps that they would do, similar probably to Amber Alert. I think, it would start with the police actually looking. It would start with not just a poster and not just, the alert in the news, but the police actually going and looking for the person reported missing, because we don't see a lot of that. We don't see much of action when somebody's gone missing. I think people would start to not see Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirited plus relatives as disposable. I think that they would start to recognize that they're human, that they are loved, that they have families, that people care about them, and that they're sacred, and that they deserve to be as protected and to be as considered as anybody else walking down the street in this country.
Meteorologist John Sauder joins us now. So 20-degree days, there might not be that many of them in the next week, or are there more?
Probably not, but not bad. I mean, normal high is 17. 18, 16 will be kind of hovering around there.
That's lovely. It's all lovely.
It's dry. My advice is to get kind of the yard work done, between now and about Sunday, because after that we're going to get a little bit soggy. That's coming up in the 7-day forecast. Right now, the current temperatures, and you look at the south shore of Lake Manitoba, and it was quite cool there this afternoon. Only 7 degrees right now. And this time of year, when you've got a northerly flow coming off the water, these areas right along the water side can be quite cool, quite a bit cooler. There's still some ice out there, very cold water. That moderates the flow. But if you are kind of landlocked, you're looking at 20s and 21s at this time in the evening. 21 right now at the Forks, also in Steinbach. And as we get back out to the southwest, we get closer to that upper ridge. So Melita at 25, back into Ontario, 19s and 20s, and then quite a bit cooler in Barons River at 9. Across the north, it's warmest in the west. It'll look just like this tomorrow. 10 degrees right now in Thompson, 5 in Gillam, and 3 in Churchill, 14 in Norway House. Not a lot of cloud here under this big upper ridge. If I was to draw the jet stream with my finger, it would be well up to the north and angling well back into western sections of Alberta. And anything under that is quite warm. Transversely out to the eastern side of the country, it's the opposite. It's a big trough, so it's a lot cooler. Right now, the forecast conditions for tonight across into northwestern Ontario, 3s and 4s for lows. That's bang on seasonal. Same with here in the southeast, a low in Winnipeg of 4 degrees, 5 in Emerson, 3 in Steinbach, and back to the west, lows will be similar between 2 and 4 in the west, although Morden only getting down to 6 degrees tonight. Across northern Manitoba, not much weather at all, varying amounts of cloud, temperatures between, -3 in Churchill and lows of 3 degrees. That's a +3 in Flin Flon and the Pas. And then tomorrow, like I say, much the same. 17s for the Pas and Lynn Lake, 18 in Flin Flon. Thompson at 14, a little bit more cloud cover, and a sun-cloud mix, and 1 in Churchill, 11 in Gillam. And then as we head to the south, we are looking at some areas getting close to 20 anyway, but a little bit cooler by a couple of degrees. Plenty of sunshine, especially here in Winnipeg, 18 degrees, as it is in Emerson tomorrow, Steinbach, Sprague, Lac du Bonnet, Pinawa, up around 17 tomorrow, and then into northwestern Ontario, generally a sun-cloud mix, highs of 14 in Kenora and Fort Francis, 11s for Red Lake and for Dryden.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Now, I know you've heard about people talking to their plants. There's a new study that suggests that plants might actually have something to say themselves. Katerina Georgieva digs in to find out what's going on.
So it's really quiet right now. I don't hear anything, but it's possible that some of these plants are trying to tell me something.
These are a couple different kinds of alocasia, or elephant ears.
Drew Baudouin loves his plant collection. He treats them with great affection and care, all 100 of them. And he's about to learn something new.
A new study out of Israel has just discovered that plants are actually making sounds when they're under stress.
It means that probably a lot of houseplants are screaming.
Researchers at Tel Aviv University used special microphones to record ultrasonic sounds. The frequency too high for human ears, but research found sounds were definitely there.
In order to show what these sounds are like, we took many sounds, we put them together in a small time frame, and we changed the frequency so human ears can hear them. This is an example of such a manipulation we did on tomato sounds that we recorded.
Not having seen the video before, that is not what I expected the sounds to sound like.
You hear stress and you think screaming.
Yeah, like a sustained note or something would have been what I was expecting. Yeah. The plant that's sitting in the corner that I forgot to water and then overlooked, I'm just going to hear the click, 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 click.
What do you think this could lead to in terms of what more we could learn about plants?
How they communicate and why they're making these sounds when they can't perceive sounds.
So the next time you're taking care of your plants, pay extra close attention because they could be clicking at you.
Katerina Georgieva, CBC News, Windsor.
The Winnipeg Ice are getting set to play Game 4 of their Eastern Conference Final. Will they sweep? We'll talk about the Ice after the break. The Winnipeg Ice are one win away from becoming the Western Hockey League's Eastern Conference champions. The team is in Saskatoon right now to face the Blades tonight in Game 4. Brian Munns is the broadcast and communications manager for the Winnipeg Ice. Brian, give us your best pitch. We've got a lot of Jets fans who are heartbroken, think their team is out of the playoffs, but there is a Winnipeg team they should be cheering for.
Janet, thanks for your time. Exciting times, obviously, for the entire Western Hockey League and the Winnipeg Ice right now after their 5-1 victory last night in Saskatoon. And the WHL is tomorrow's NHL stars playing today. And you look in this series right now, they've got Zach Benson and the Blades of Tanner Molendyk, who are both two players that we'll hear early coming up in the NHL draft this summer in Nashville. So we get a chance to see tomorrow's stars today, and these kids have put on a fantastic show so far for everybody, for sure.
Yeah, they've certainly got a lot of push, a lot of drive to bring it home for their fans. How devoted are Winnipeg Ice fans?
Yeah, it's been tremendous this year. The atmosphere inside the ice cave at Wayne Fleming Arena, we probably have the most intimate arena in the Dub. But fans are right on top of you. And, you know, you guys have been there. You've had a chance to see how close you get right to the game. It's a fantastic family atmosphere. And we had a terrific atmosphere here in Saskatoon as well last night for game number 3. So I think everybody's excited about where we are. As you can see behind me here right now in Saskatoon, it's playoff weather. And I know you have that back home as well, talking to my family over the last 24 to 48 hours. So best time of the year to be playing hockey. And hopefully Winnipeg can wrap this series up and move on to the league final against either Seattle or Kamloops.
Well, if they don't win tonight, heaven forbid, they're going to be coming back home to Winnipeg for Game 5. What do you expect the atmosphere would be like whenever they play at home the next time, be it Game 5 or be it the championship final series?
Well, as the schedule says, the little asterisks got that if necessary. So we'll go with the if necessary. That would be Game 5 coming up Friday night inside the Ice Cave at Wayne Fleming Arena, a 6 p.m. face-off. And we've moved up the majority of the playoff games, really, Janet, to try and bring the whole family atmosphere in there. Obviously, you've got a 6 o'clock face-off. People get home from work, grab the kids from school, and come out and really enjoy a fun night both on and off the ice. And you're back home by shortly right around 8:30. So that is kind of what we're gearing for. If we need Game 5, we encourage everybody to get your tickets and make sure you've got a seat if that game is needed to be played. And we'll find out here in the next few hours tonight in Saskatoon if there will be a Game 5 or if everybody can gear up for Game 1 of the WHL Championship, because the Ice will host the first 2 games coming up either against the Blazers or the T-Birds if they can get by the Blades.
If they can get by the Blades. They have been such a successful team this season. What is it about this group of the Ice that's given them this success?
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of depth. They really learned last year when they lost in the Eastern Conference Championship Series to the Edmonton Oil Kings, who went on to win the league, that, you know, they were just a kind of step away. And, you know, the roster they've been able to bring right now, the depth they have, if you want to look at Matt Savoy, who's a first-round pick of Buffalo, to Zach Ostapchuk, who won 2 gold medals with Canada, the World Junior Hockey Championship, to Connor Geekie, who's a first-round pick of the Arizona Coyotes. Those are your top 3 centers all the way down the depth chart. And you've got, I mentioned Benson earlier on, Connor McLennan, Owen Peterson on the back end. They're led by the captain, Carson Lambos, proud Winnipegger, who's a first-round pick of the Minnesota Wild. Graham Stewart, who's a defenseman of Pick and the Nashville Predators. So they've got a really deep team, I guess might be the best way to say it. And all starts in goal with Daniel Hauser, who's been fantastic. So this team is built for now, and that's what we're excited about for sure.
Brian Munns, thank you for joining us. Have fun tonight.
Thanks, Janet. Take care.
Nice weather in Saskatoon, nice weather here too. Look at the people out enjoying the sunshine and the warmer weather in Winnipeg. John's 7-day forecast and a daily lift for cat lovers when we return.
Not as much wind over the next couple of days, about 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. Not quite as warm, but still seasonal. And then clouds start to roll in Saturday. Showers start to roll in by the end of Sunday. And it looks like the first half of next week will be seasonal, but it does look a little unstable with showers on Monday and at least a chance on Tuesday and Wednesday. A Winnipeg grandma is hooked on helping homeless cats. So what she does is she crochets cat blankets any chance she gets.
She then donates these creations to the Winnipeg Humane Society. CBC's Janelle Henry brings us our daily lift.
Oh, dear.
Gladys Wheeler just had her 99th birthday, and all of the celebrations kind of got in the way of her crocheting.
I can't wait to sit and do this. I'm doing it at 2 o'clock in the mornings.
When she's not so busy, she makes up to 12 cat blankets per month and donates them to the Winnipeg Humane Society.
Once they get a mat, that's theirs, and that's where you'll find them on the mat.
Okay, but we need the purple to finish it.
Susan Taylor visits Wheeler a few times a week to help her with things around the house. She also helps Wheeler with her crocheting.
I am just so impressed. I will watch her doing what she's doing and then come back the next day and she's got another half of a mat done.
1 row.
Once Wheeler finishes the crocheting, they're then dropped off at the Best West Pet Foods on St. Anne's Road, a satellite adoption location for the Humane Society. Assistant store manager Kai Watts says Wheeler has donated more than 1,000 blankets.
So when we first get our cats in with the Humane Society, we kind of test their personality, see how they are, and we pick a blanket based on how we think would suit best with them.
This brown tabby, named Canel, is just waiting to be adopted. She got a warm-colored blanket to match her warm personality.
As soon as you put one of the blankets on their bed, they immediately just go and start kneading on it.
The cats love them, and Wheeler can't stop making them. It's the perfect match. Janelle Henry, CBC News, Winnipeg.
That's amazing.
1,000?
1,000 of them. She said she's sometimes up at 2 in the morning crocheting.
And the cats seem to love them, right?
They do love them.
Yeah.
Nice idea. Lovely that you do that. Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.
Enjoy the evening.
Bye.
See you.